I will call this meeting of the Board of Visitors to order. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. I'd like to welcome the students who are here, members of the press, Karen Capsadelis, and I believe we have Jonathan Spears from Richmond BizSense here as well. And I would like to thank and welcome those of us who are joining via webcast. As I am reminding myself to do at the moment, and I would ask all of you who speak to do so, to speak right into these mics. It is tough to hear in this room, and let's all make it very friendly, and if someone can't hear, raise their hand and we can redirect to be sure that everyone hears what is being said. A few points at the outset of this meeting. I'd like to thank all of the students, members of the administration, and fellow board members who participated in the open forum that we held this past Wednesday to discuss the budget and tuition. The program was well attended given the time of year that we're in right now, and it provided great opportunity for conversation between us assembled and the students. And I'll offer a few more comments on the experience as we get closer to the finance and budget report in the meeting as well. As a reminder for today's meeting, there will be no opportunity for public comment given the agenda we have before us, and I ask everyone who is here to respect this. We are, of course, always interested in getting feedback from our participants and visitors, so don't hesitate to grab me or others offline, or certainly to contact Lori Carter, who is our board liaison. Looking at the agenda, for those of you who have been a part of this board for a period of time, you'll note some minor changes in the flow. Principally today and going forward, what we have opted to do is to better align the reports of the committees with the recommendations being made by those committees to the board. This makes good sense to us, and it also conforms with good general governance practices. Last, before turning to the president, I would remind everyone that we have this evening our pre-commencement honoree dinner. Here we will be honoring our commencement speaker, Pamela L., who is the Chief Marketing Officer for the NBA, as well as honoring our Edward A. Wayne Medal recipients, Charlie and True Luck. Also this year, we have the privilege of honoring our Board of Visitors Scholarship winner, Marvin Chow, as well as the two distinguished runners-up, Jiabi Chen and Morgan Center. I hope that as many of you as possible will be able to join us for the dinner, and certainly for the commencement tomorrow. If anyone needs further details on those, and I can confess to having gone to Laurie a few minutes ago for details as well, she's got them. With that, I will turn the program over to Dr. Rao.
Great, thank you, Mr. Rucker. And as we look toward the close of the academic year, we're obviously looking forward into the next year, because ultimately our ability to advance the kinds of changes that focus on our mission are most important to us. And so I wanted to take a few minutes today, together with the entire senior leadership team, to outline some of our strategic direction and priorities for 2016-17, beginning in July, but obviously we've already begun an awful lot of that to begin with. So let me start out by saying Quest for Distinction, under which we, the banner under which we place our strategic plan, is very much alive. It's doing very well. It's been a great roadmap, particularly in terms of helping us focus on student success and keeping focus generally in areas that ultimately matter most to our mission. We began talking, as you know, in the last year about the move from sort of being distinctive to being relevant, and we've made great headway in that regard, and I think that's going to be an important part of what describes a 21st century research university, your ability to change and to truly mark in positive ways, make a mark on your community and the lives who comprise it. So Quest has really been a great framework. It's also given us an opportunity to really be adaptable to an accelerating pace of change on all fronts, with regard to students and the ways in which they are changing very, very rapidly. Government and business, I talked with you about the legislative session and some of the things that have gone on there that signal to us that we've got to find more ways to collaborate and leverage resources from each other that are invested in each of us. And also generally with respect to the population. Our people are becoming increasingly diverse, and that is a wonderfully important strength in our country on which research universities in particular, this institution, will leverage and do everything that we can to help shape society. This has been a remarkable year, a tremendous year that as we look back, gives us an opportunity to really appreciate the great strides that our students have made. They have done tremendously well. If you look at their retention rates, you look at the graduation rates, they've done very well. And I'm, of course, most proud of the fact that we've been able to close the gap with respect to underrepresented minority students who we focused on in recent years. We've had records in sponsored research, records in fundraising that we're very proud of. We opened several really important world-class facilities that are really places and spaces for our people to help fulfill the mission of this institution. You might remember earlier on in the year we opened Innovate, we opened LEAD, we actually had your September meeting at LEAD, Cabell Library where we sit today, the Children's Pavilion, a 640,000 square foot place for children in Richmond. It's wonderful. It has truly given us the opportunity to bring all of us together who are committed to the lives of children and healthy and their health. The Now facility, which is our neuroscience, orthopedics, and wellness center out in Short Pump, that's now open, operating, doing very, very well. We have a long way to go with respect to some of the goals that we have in terms of the diversity of our faculty, but we have done very well with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion in our living and learning environment, and I'm very proud of our progress there. Our priorities will continue to build on these achievements, and they will introduce some new initiatives as well. And so what I want to do at this time is begin by asking our provost, Gail Hackett, if she will outline some of the preliminary high-level strategies under Theme 1 with which you've become familiar. Gail?
Okay, so you all remember that Theme 1 is student and faculty success. In response to President Rao's challenge to develop a real-world experience required of every student, we are developing that experiential learning curriculum for full implementation in fall of 2017. We continue to strengthen programs and initiatives to support access, reduce student debt, increase internal financial assistance, and timely graduation. We are plans are in place to greatly expand online course and program offerings. We have appointed a new head of online education, and we are looking at our online offerings to see where we can expand those. We are examining our gateway courses. Those are the large enrollment introductory courses, freshman and sophomore year, but also into the major, and looking at those courses that have high DFW rates. Those are courses where students have disproportionately high grades of D, F, or withdrawals. And we are improving those courses, or we will be redesigning those courses to improve the learning experience. We're continuing to strengthen advising and career counseling, increasing internal financial aid, and ultimately looking at constraining tuition increases. In terms of faculty success, we're continuing to improve recruitment and retention of diverse faculty and staff by a variety of methods. And those of you who were on the Academic and Health Affairs Committee saw what we were doing with our I-Cubed initiative, the Institute for Inclusion, Inquiry, and Innovation, which is our new attempt to be innovative in faculty recruitment and retention around research corps.
Very good. Thank you very much, Madam Provost. And now if we could turn our attention to Vice President for Health Sciences, CEO of the health system, Marcia Rapley, and our Vice President for Research and Innovation, Frank Macrina.
So I'll begin. Dr. Rapley and I will make this report together under the heading of Fully Integrated 21st Century Research University. One of our first priorities is to increase extramural training grants. These are typically federal grants that can be made institutionally and administered institutionally or made individually to trainees. Thank you. We have typically not had a large amount of training grants. This is an opportunity for us to make this part of our portfolio robust, and in doing so, provide the training to provide training for the next generation of researchers. Dr. Rapley.
And we are this month submitting our application to renew our National Cancer Center designation. We had an external group come in and review about 6 or 7 months ago, and it was a very positive feedback we got from that group. This is a group of other cancer center directors from around the country. And one of the things they noted was we are particularly successful. We stand out for our success in the research that our own people are doing in the laboratory and moving that right to the care of patients. So that's a really important thing for us to be proud of, work of our folks in organizing that.
The other prestigious infrastructure grant that we'll be submitting on the same day as the Cancer Center grant is the Clinical Translational Science Award. This provides infrastructure support for clinical trials and a wide variety of other research activities that are aimed at translational research to better the human condition, if you will. Dr. Gerald Muller is the director, principal investigator of this grant and director of the Wright Center for Clinical and Translational Research. And it's important for us for a number of reasons. We are the only CTSA institution in the Commonwealth of Virginia, so we'll be recompeting that grant again later this month.
And we are working to increase our work in clinical trials. We've identified some obstacles or things that have slowed us down, process issues. Amazing work in revamping the timeline and process with our IRB, Institutional Review Board, which will really help move things along. And then we also have now soon to appoint a new director for clinical research within the health system who will do the blocking and tackling on the operational issues as they seem to be paralyzing sometimes, but we're going to be taking care of that. So we look forward to giving you some good outcomes from those changes.
Much of the research I reported in my strategic report at the March board meeting was centered on activities that are happening at VCU's institutes and centers. These promote interdisciplinary research. They muster the power to compete for very large interdisciplinary grants, and we have as a priority during this year to sustain those institutes and centers to continue their growth and assist them in building our research enterprise. And at the same time, we are bringing together stakeholders to talk about new opportunities for institutes and centers at VCU to continue to contribute to this theme of interdisciplinary research.
And Provost Hackett and I have both spent a lot of time planning how we could engage students across the entire university, from undergrads to our PhD students, both in our health sciences and also in Monroe Park, to really, for those students who are interested, to give them opportunities to bring their talent, their creativity, to helping us address some of the social issues that prevent people from taking good care of themselves. And we've made some really good progress in that. Our senior leadership is really energized about this. And again, I think we're going to be opening some important doors. We are doing this in partnership with the Department of Public Health of the City of Richmond and community groups such as Boys and Girls Clubs, the Richmond Police Department. So this is really something that is embedded in our relationships, our positive relationships with our community partners.
Excellent. Thank you both. And for the third theme, focused on a national model for community engagement and the impact for the people in our region, I'll now turn to Senior Assistant to the President, Kevin Allison.
Thank you, President Rao. Building on our substantial portfolio of engagement in the community, as just referenced by Dr. Rapley, we will continue work that has been building on a platform this year. Dr. Rao referenced our conversation from last September with Barbara Holland, where she spoke about our distinctiveness as an urban engaged institution. This year, we have built infrastructure to capture community relationships. There was a presentation earlier this morning in Governance and Compensation on VCU's expansion of a database to map, sort, and examine relationships in our work with the community. This year, we've also drafted policy to support the appropriate oversight of these relationships, and particularly in identifying those relationships that should come to the board for review. The third area of work this year has been building on your urging, the urging of both President Rao and the board, and really being able to have a deeper conversation about the impact of the work that we do in the community. And to that end, we have focused on identifying focus areas where we could begin as an institution to examine our impact. This began with conversations back in August with VCU faculty, staff, administrators, and our community partners, where we identified K-12 education and health as focus areas. On May 4th and 5th, we met with groups of VCU faculty to further continue those conversations. That work and discussion was framed by conversations building on the Capital Region Collaborative, Bridging Richmond, and the Virginia Plan for Well-Being, which has articulated a range of community strategies. Part of what the community has said to us is, please don't initiate new strategies at the community level when we have robust opportunities that you could really engage and partner with us on as you move forward, looking at how you can better leverage the broader VCU institution. So those conversations in health focused on prevention areas of food access, physical activity, and lifelong wellness, and in K-12 education on early childhood, third grade reading, and attendance. We will continue to refine those conversations. We will review this summer with university and community leadership, with particular representation from the community, from the business, philanthropic, and public sectors. As we refine that focus, we will be forming steering committees of university and community partners to finalize the focus areas and to begin articulation of the strategic implementation plans that look at the ways that VCU can align its assets and work collaboratively with the community in moving towards measurable impact. So in other words, looking at strategic focus strategies and movement to measurable change based on metrics. We will also continue exploration of the work of the Center for Urban Community, where we will address continued support of our core mission by working to link and create synergies through the co-location of internal and community assets in a shared space model that would also have space for social innovation and entrepreneurship. It's an exciting opportunity for VCU. President Rao has been part of conversations at the national level, as have other representatives of the VCU community in furthering this conversations and in looking strategically at the unique role of urban institutions.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Ellison. And so a lot of what we're talking about really comes together when we're able to align resources together with the priorities that we've shared with you. And so there are a number of things I'll just simply share briefly with you. One is that Under Vice President Marty Heil's leadership, we'll obviously launch the public phase of our fundraising campaign, the largest comprehensive campaign in the history of the university. We'll also continue to we'll bring to closure the diversity and equity plan that Vice President Wanda Mitchell has brought leadership to, and that will start to be it's already being carried out, but it will continue to be carried out in 2016-17. We've talked with you about the new human resources system that is going to take effect over the next 3 years. The big step coming right here in July immediately when we open the new classification, if you will, of university staff with the appropriate approvals that we anticipate. And then, obviously, infrastructure at VCU will continue to be very important. We've talked about athletics and our facilities plan that we need to look very carefully at, the technical infrastructure that comes with any research university to support the space management of research, and, of course, the launch of our most ambitious strategic plan ever for any medical center that I know of, but certainly this becomes one of the largest economic development undertakings in Richmond history. And so what will happen over the next 10 years is a real focus on transforming this medical center into the East Coast preeminent academic medical center. So I'm very proud of that, obviously. One of the last things I'll mention to you is the obvious, and that is the budgeting system and how we direct resources in the budget to the appropriate kinds of goal-oriented things that we look to achieve. And so resource accountability will be a really important part of that, to make certain that we are able to direct resources toward academic and research priorities and to develop and generate new revenues for the institution as well. So before I turn to Carol Gray, I want to take a moment to specifically thank Dick Bunce for stepping in yet once again. This is multiple times that he has tried to retire and has stepped back into the institution. He has made great strides for us as our acting CFO with regard to this budget resource model, but with regard to a wide range of major initiatives that have been very important and have benefited so many people at the core and center of our mission, and he's done it very, very well. So, Dick, this is my chance to say thank you to you. We really appreciate your incredible commitment to VCU over 25 years, is it now?
A little longer, but
28 years, a lifetime, obviously. Thank you very, very much. Great partner. And now our newest partner, Carol Gray, who steps in as our CFO.
Thank you, Mike. I would like to also echo the President's sentiments about Dick. He has made my transition 2 weeks to be very easy. He's been very patient and very helpful, and I want to thank him for his time that he's given me. You were right when you said he's very selfish. He only cares about doing the right thing for the institution. So I would like to personally thank you for all your time and effort. So in support of the President's priorities for the preparing for the future, Finance and Budget has been introducing the new budget model and resource allocation to the university. The most current version of the new budget was introduced to the Faculty Senate meeting. I think it was scheduled on May 3rd. It was received very well. The introduction of the budget model was presented by, let me make sure I get her name right, Ann Nichols Casebolt, a faculty member and a associate vice president from research development. She did a wonderful job. The faculty members' feedback was that the budget model that was introduced was very open and very transparent. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback from the institution. I would like to also say that the budget office, under the direction of Leslie Brown, who is sitting in the back, will continue this effort to shape and define a new budget model which will allow us to align with Quest and build on VCU's strategic initiatives, as well as facilitate multi-year planning for the next decade. Over the next year, we plan to finalize the academic and administrative components of the new system and run parallel budgets for full implementation for fiscal year 19. And I would like to also say thanks to Dick Bunce and Gail Hackett for co-chairing this initiative, and all of the campus representatives that have participated in this endeavor. It's a very huge endeavor, and I hope that the board will be very proud of the work that's been done by the staff.
Very good. Thank you, Carolyn. As you can see, we have an ambitious agenda, and we'll be putting together measures and various other details that will come with putting this plan together. And then when we reconvene at your August board retreat, we'll have an opportunity to engage in greater depth. But we wanted to give you an outline of some of the things that we will be working on as we look toward the summer to start to shape our plan for 2016-17. Thank you, Mr. Rector.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Are there questions for the president? Seeing none, we will move on with our agenda. First of all, an administrative item, if you will. I would like to ask for your formal consideration of a series of minutes of the Board of Visitors, special meetings, and nominating committee that have been held. And those are items 1 through 6, which I trust everyone here has read in great detail. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you very much. We will now turn to our committee reports, and we will begin with academic and health affairs. Mr. Frazier.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rector. We had a very productive meeting, including a series of ones that Dr. Hackett had designed throughout the past academic year. I'll come back to our approval items in just a minute and hit upon the 6 other items of business that we covered. First, Dr. Hackett presented the committee dashboard and continued a discussion on how to further improve those metrics that we track in progress. There'll be some iterative work with the committee after this meeting, back and forth, so that we have our new dashboard and set of metrics in place before the start of the next academic year. Dr. Luke Schultheis provided an update on international and out-of-state student recruitment. Sort of subpoint was that VCU must both increase its non-resident enrollment, including international students, to further diversify the student body, and of course there are economic benefits that come along with that. He talked about 5 to 6 key levers that can be used to achieve this over multiple years, and the magnitude of some of the work that goes on behind that. As an example of 2 of those, online program development was one priority, as well as specific programs being able to improve their rankings so that they become nationally renowned and can be used to attract more students. And he pointed towards business and engineering as working to improve their rankings and also working to improve their international partnerships. We moved on, and Dr. Ashir Nassim presented a new initiative called the Institute for Inclusion, Inquiry, and Innovation, and it's affectionately called iCubed. As Dr. Hackett noted, this is innovative in and of itself, and how it tries to bring together transdisciplinary forces into some core curriculum. And as part of this, it ends up recruiting faculty from all across the university, all across disciplines, and also reaches out to various community organizations to develop a series of core initiatives. And these initiatives are aimed at solving specific problems inherent in urban environments where, of course, we're so grounded and so important as an institution. The 5 specific ones, they don't come all at once. These come over a series of years, because you're talking basically a 5-year phased implementation. Our community engagement through arts and humanities, health and wellness, and aging populations, culture, race and health, oral health in childhood and as adolescence, and racial and economic justice. So as I said, as you get critical mass in each one of these areas, they'll move on to the next. And in fact, if you look at it over time, many of the things that can be learned and improved will be put into our normal processes. So part of the catalytic need to have the Institute may be replaced with normal course of, I'll say, business or the way we do things. But it was most definitely an inspirational and exciting discussion led by Dr. Nassim. Our fourth item was the Faculty Student Senate through June Nicholson and Holly Alford reported of their continued focus on shared governance and initiatives and working closely with both the provost and the president's offices on that. They specifically discussed the focus on underrepresented faculty recruitment and their ongoing work in that area. Fifth, we moved to the Staff Senate, and Sanya Markosha talked about the expanding and continuing opportunities to further engage the staff in activities recognizing what the university does in the community and other areas. Sanya has given us a series of these presentations, and you just have to love the excitement that she brings and the whole staff brings to helping VCU be a better place. And finally, our student representatives, Diamond Gathers and Samin Meshkin, provided some reflections on the year. They noted that the health clinic centralization has been adopted, and I think that's viewed very positively, and we appreciate all the feedback that led to that, and also introduced their presumed successors, and we enjoyed meeting them as well. And they got a round of applause for being excellent representatives during the past academic year. Our approval items that you'll find starting on page 23 in your books as part of the consent agenda were 5 items ranging from some new certificates to some new programs to renamings. And you may want to handle all those, I think, at once as we do the approval items. And we went through those and supported those.
Great.
Thank you.
Are you advancing a motion to approve on behalf of?
Yeah, would you like to do this now?
Why don't we do that?
Okay, with that, for the 5 approval items from the Academic Affairs Committee, I would ask a motion to approve those, please.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Any opposed?
Great.
Motion carries. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Rector.
Mr. Worley, Audit Integrity and Compliance.
Thank you, John. I'm reporting in open session. The Audit Integrity and Compliance Committee had 7 agenda items, including 3 action items for the board's approval. The action items include the annual audit work plan and compliance initiatives, which were presented and reviewed by the committee. The committee charter and meeting planner had some minor changes, which were reviewed and accepted. Karen Helderman, who's the audit director with the Auditor of Public Accounts with the state, discussed the planning and timing and scope of the 2016. We're already starting to prepare for the audit. And so there'll be preliminary work done prior to that time. Next, the committee reviewed the current status of dashboard measures, which remain consistent with the prior period. Kathleen Shaw shared the data governance structures for the university and health system, and then she provided the activities of the Data Integrity Management Council along the work plan for the next year. Ms. Shaw also discussed the current and planned initiatives for the Banner Revitalization Project, which is entitled LIBRA, R-L-I-B-R-A. And that concludes my report.
And you've got some action items you want to advance?
Yeah, I do. I got a little confused on when we were doing it. But, Mr. Rector, I move that the action items for the annual audit work plan, compliance initiatives, and the committee's charter and meeting planner be approved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Stone, Governance and Compensation.
Thank you, Mr. Rector. In our meeting, we discussed the revisions to our committee dashboard, which we have continued to review to ensure that the goals and measurement of those goals is continued to be accurate. We then discussed the orientation agenda for our meeting in August, where we will have an orientation followed by a board retreat. And we looked at the previous format for our orientations, where we would essentially discuss some big picture, major topic items and receive presentations from the vice presidents. And we agreed that format, really focusing on some high level big picture discussions was a good one, given the complexity of this organization and the importance of bringing the new board members in as up to speed as quickly as possible. Some of the topics that we discussed were budget and tuition and other highlights. So we would encourage the members of the board, as you think of other topics that might be helpful in that initial orientation, to please let us know. Please share those thoughts and recommendations with Lori. We also found that the campus tour is a very helpful addition to the orientation program, so we would suggest that we include that as well. So again, please let us know if you have any suggestions going forward. We spent a good bit of our committee meeting discussing an item that Kevin Allison mentioned in his report, essentially looking at the partnerships that the VCU has entered into with outside entities, and there has been a tremendous model for reviewing the community engagement and the various partnerships that have come together, and we received a bit of an insight on that model, which I understand we are the first university to have developed such a model, and we absolutely look forward to the rest of the board getting a chance to see that firsthand. But it is a really outstanding tool and something that will allow us to really keep a close tab on the types of relationships we're developing and encouraging additional community engagement. So we really appreciated that presentation from the Division of Community Engagement. And finally, for the approval of the board, we'd like to move that a technical change be made to the Board of Visitors bylaws to correspond with a recent revision in the Code of Virginia, Title 23. So I would so move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you very much. Ms. Stone, if we could ask you to continue with the nominating committee.
Thank you, Mr. Rector. The Rector asked the nominating committee to meet to consider candidates for Vice Rector and Secretary. And the nominating committee is comprised of, in addition to myself, Colette McKeachin, Dr. Shapiro, and Rick Wagner. And at our May 11th meeting, we discussed candidates and would like to recommend for your consideration Phoebe Hall as Vice Rector and Dr. Carol Shapiro as Secretary. And that is our recommendation.
That is your recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Stone. Dr. Rao, nominees for non-voting members?
Yes, non-voting members are obviously an important part of the discussion that takes place at the board. So I want to begin by thanking this year's folks for the past year, their service. June Nicholson, faculty representative, alternative. The alternate was Holly Alford. Sonia Marcocha, the staff representative. And then Samin Meshkin was one of our two, and Diamond Gathers was the other of the student representatives. And so thank you very much for your service, although some of you will not be going very far because our proposed nominees include some of the same names. Holly is actually, who's a member of the fashion design and merchandising faculty, is going to actually be the faculty representative, and the alternate would be June. So they are flip-flopping under my recommendation to you. You remember that June Nicholson is a professor in media and culture. Staff representative, again, will be Sonia Marcocha, who is a member of the provost's office as a financial technician. And also we have an alternate, someone I enjoyed meeting, who Sonia introduced me to, Brian Artis, who is a member of our VCU health team, working very hard on something near and dear to my heart, and that is patient services, making great headway as part of that team. Our student representatives will include Alan Booth, who is over here on the right. He is a chemistry major, and he is a guaranteed pre-dent major as well. And the other student representative, Elizabeth Winslow, had to leave. She is a PharmD student in her second year and came here from Hollins University, where she did her undergraduate degree. So with that, I will throw that out there for your consideration as a motion.
Great. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you very much. Mr. Wagner, University Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Rector. In the open session, we heard government relations update. Matt Conrad and Kara Gunther provided sort of a closeout to a number of items that affected our VCU, including our budget process last year, and reported, or at the last meeting, that most of those remained intact or remained intact. As you recall, that was a good, favorable session for both VCU and VCU Health. We also heard about several other budget actions from the General Assembly, economic development grants and significant research grants, which provide opportunities for VCU, and we understand that President Rao and his team are pursuing opportunities for us to participate in those. From the university relations side, Pam Lepley and her team reported out on their scorecard and spent most of their time talking about their integrated work with our development activity as we prepare for the public portion of our campaign, and we got what must be just about the earliest look possible at her branding and marketing initiatives, which look to be very exciting and build on the positioning of VCU that you are all familiar with at this point. And then finally, in development alumni relations, Marty and her team updated us on their fundraising to date this year, about $65 million, so we have a ways to go to get to our $90 million target. We talked about progress in alumni, the Alumni Association. We talked importantly about the fact that our campaign council, Martz and Lundy, will be on campus next week to hold a training session for deans and development officers, which will be integral to the success of our campaign. And it was also noted that next Thursday is the first campaign volunteer summit, which will be held here on campus at the Student Commons. And you will hear further about our discussions during the closed session. No action items at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rick. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move forward with the agenda. The Finance and Budget Committee will be next, but before I turn to Mr. Ginther, I'd like to return, as I indicated to the outset, and share a few comments about our Wednesday session with the full board. We did, as I indicated, have what I would characterize as a very productive meeting with students on Wednesday at the Budget Forum. The president and several members of his team participated in that session, and I would note that this is the second such session since we met to discuss the budget in April, the first being one that Dick Bunce convened with the Student Governance Association in the middle part of April. At our meeting on Wednesday, Dick Bunce and Luke Schulteis gave excellent presentations on budget and financial aid, and they did a masterful job responding to a range of very good questions from the audience. At the session, we both heard, and I would say learned, from good feedback on the budget and the budgeting process. In particular, we heard a lot of concern about financial aid and the challenges of working through the financial aid system. We took the opportunity, in addition to learning, to reinforce that the President has emphasized that financial aid is and will remain a high budget priority, and will continue to focus heavily on that as a board. A lot of the discussion at the forum reflected the overall challenges that we and others are facing in higher education today across the country, and the difficult choices that those challenges are placing before all of us. In the face of all of that, we made it very clear to those assembled that the process for developing the university budget has the interests of the students as a core principle. both students here with us today at VCU and those who will attend in the future. We also explained to the group that as a board working closely with the administration, that we have a stewardship responsibility to ensure that the mission of this institution is fulfilled by carefully balancing the imperatives of access, affordability, and the quality of our academic programs with those priorities intended to sustain a healthy future for VCU. We reinforced that very high priority is placed on keeping tuition low and under very tight control. But we also noted that investing prudently in the future is imperative to ensure that we continue to have the quality of academic programs and facilities that will retain both current students and enable us to attract tomorrow's students, as well as increase the value of everyone's degrees. One thing that stood out to all of us is the need for improved communication, how to better engage students and how to get information to them that they need, while also helping them understand the budget and the process that goes into its development. To this end, the administration has committed to bringing students into the budget development process beginning this coming fall with the start of the 2016-17 academic year. And we've been encouraged to continue to have forums of the sort that we had, and will continue to do so. I would just close in turning it over to Mr. Ginther by saying that we look forward to working with the members of the administration and the students in the coming months as we all tackle these challenges together. Mr. Ginther?
Thank you, Mr. Rector. The FBI committee had a very full agenda this morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the information items first. USIMCO, which is our new investment company, we did review the key terms and provisions of the document, and as instructed at the last meeting, the rector and myself were given the authority to sign the documents. We did sign that agreement. It's a limited partnership agreement with USIMCO, and as of now, we've transferred just about 75% of our assets to USIMCO, so they are up and running. We have also awarded a contract in terms of the renovations for the Acknell residence and the 12th Street Streetscape project, which is down at the MCV campus. We had an update on capital projects. Everything seemed to be going well there. We had a discussion about divesting some of our investments relative to some information that's been brought to us by the students, some things that they are concerned about. We're going to discuss that in more detail at our next meeting. We had a treasurer's report that we looked at. We looked at our revenue and expense summary. All of that is in good shape. We also looked at the VCU Health System financial report through 9 months, ended March 31st, 2016. And again, that seems to be going well. Now, Mr. Rector, we have 5 items that need to be approved that are action items. One is the committee approved the selection of the Baskerville of Richmond, together with Goody, Clancy, and Associates of Boston, as the architect of record for the School of Engineering Research Expansion Project. That project is construction of a 125,000 square foot, 4-story building directly south of the Engineering East and Sneed Hall buildings. The project budget is $86 million, with $43 million funded by the university-supported debt and $43 million plus the cost of issuance for the debt from the state, and they'll support that debt. The next item that we have for action is the approval of the project to build the School of Allied Health Professions. The building and the renovation of the Raleigh building is also included in this. The School of Allied Health building is a $87.3 million project, with $76.5 million provided by the state-supported debt and $10.8 million in the university-supported debt. The Raleigh building renovations total is $8.4 million, and that will be funded entirely by the state general funds. The next item that we have is demolition on the MCV campus. The committee approved demolition of the low-rise dorms on the MCV campus to make room for the new health science building. Estimated demolition costs is about $500,000. That includes funding. That funding is actually included in the allied health building that I just talked about. The dorms were constructed about 1958. There were about 300 beds, and these beds will be replaced by the Gladding Residence Hall redevelopment project. The last item that we have for action is a follow-up to our April 7th budget workshop meeting. The committee discussed the proposed budget and the assorted tuition and fee rates. The committee approved the budget plan and the tuition and fee rates as submitted and recommends approval by the full board. Mr. Bunce will present the plan for your consideration and action during the priority action section of the agenda. So those are my 5 items that we recommend to the board, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And we might turn to Mr. Bunce right now for any follow-on commentary that he would offer.
At your April 7th budget workshop, we reviewed the E&G portion of the budget, which totals about $600 million. This morning, we also reviewed the other funds budgets. We had sponsored programs of about $215 million. Those are about equally split between federal grants and contracts and state and private grants and contracts. We presented the FACR budget, the indirect cost recoveries associated with those grants. That's about a $38 million budget. The auxiliary enterprises, about $140 million that comprises your dorms, dining, bookstores, intercollegiate athletics, and other services to students. We also had our university funds budget, about $40 million that is our investment income and our support from the various foundations for our academic programs. And then finally, the hospital services budget is about $25 million. Those are the recoveries the university gets from the health system as part of the establishment, the legislation that authorized establishment of your health system as a separate authority. We're required to recover costs that we provide to the health system. And that $25 million is comprised primarily of police services to the health system, human resource services, audit, and any other administrative support that we provide there. So those were the new budgets we proposed. Like a number of budgets in the General Assembly, those are really more than authorizing that specific dollar amount. It's an authority to spend contingent upon generating the funds in those different activities. So that comprises your $1 billion budget, and the Finance and Investment Committee reviewed that this morning and approved that, and we recommend that to the full board for your approval.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Bunce? If not, we have a motion to advance these items. I might suggest that we take the building-related items separately from the budget and bunch those 3 together. So if we could, I'll take that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So moved. Thank you very much. And then secondly, on the budget?
I'll make the motion that
Second.
it be approved.
Any questions from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
We have 1 opposed and duly noted. Thank you very much. The motion carries. We'll now turn to Dr. Hackett for some commentary on affordability and financial accessibility.
Thank you. We had a presentation that covered some of this at the May board meeting in the Academic and Health Affairs Committee. So the members of that committee may have seen some of this, but we thought, given our discussions lately, that it was important that the full board saw this presentation, and we've added some things to this. And thanks to Kathleen Shaw, our Vice Provost, for planning and decision support for putting this together and advancing the slides. So, first of all, I think everyone is aware of what's happened on the national landscape. the declines in state support that nationally are starting to come back a little bit, but that has been coupled with increases in enrollment, and that's caused us to have major challenges with regard to affordability. It's caused, the bottom in the middle there is the figure, 35,000 is the national figure for student debt, and you see some of the other figures there as well. It is important to remember, despite myths about what happens with college graduates, most of our college graduates and our graduates in particular do graduate and get employment, and the average value of that college degree is about $1 million over the lifespan. And of course, for those of our students who get master's and doctoral and professional degrees, those lifetime earnings accrue even more in terms of the investment. And so one of the problems we have, of course, is that oftentimes people are not thinking of what they're paying for their education as an investment. So this is just a reminder. In terms of what's happening in Virginia, we have had similar trends as what's been happening nationwide, except that we haven't had the state funding rebound to quite the same extent as some other states. And we have had a significant enrollment boost, particularly here at VCU. So we have a huge enrollment increase, and the rebound has not even been as much as other states. So we have a double whammy happening here. And this just gives you, and by the way, I'm trying to go through this fairly quickly. Stop me at any point if you want to talk about anything. But this gives you a pretty stark view of what's happened just in the last little over a decade, with the figure on the left showing you the percentage flip between what the state used to fund, 67% at the top in 2002, and at the bottom now, 67% funded by tuition. And of course, that explains a lot in what's happening with our tuition and what we are charging. On the right-hand side, you see that same figure in terms of numbers. So on the left, what the general fund supported, 12,000 some dollars, versus tuition supporting almost 6,000, versus the flip of that in 2015. Now, connected to that, of course, is, by the way, I'm going to be focusing here almost exclusively on what the impact of all of this has for the student financial situation, but we have to also remember that there are a lot of other parts of the impact of this, some of which, for example, include things like a flip in our faculty. So right now we have many more term faculty than tenure and tenure track faculty as a result of many of the cuts that have happened as a result of this, what's happening here. We also have serious issues in student faculty ratio in some of our colleges. For example, in the College of Humanities and Sciences, that college teaches 60% of our undergraduates. The faculty-student ratio is in the 40s to 1 as a result of some of the crunches that we've had. So I'm not going to talk about those kinds of impacts of what's been going on, but you can keep that in mind as we go forward here. So back to students. So one of the themes here is going to be that affordability is not the price of tuition alone. affordability, and most of you know that, I mean, all of you know this, but affordability really is the cost of tuition by a variety, is a function of the cost of tuition and a variety of other factors. But, here's a big problem that challenges us and creates issues for our students. We are far below, or considerably below average in terms of the amount of financial need that we are able to meet for our students. So it's William and Mary, go back and just, William and Mary, UVA, Virginia Tech, and us, okay? And we're comparing ourselves, we could provide you with other institutions and it'll be the same. We're showing you the tier 3 institutions here. And interestingly, we have the largest number of students with financial need among all of the research-intensive peers. This continues on if we include other institutions as well. I'll let you, I think you should let this be absorbed, okay? So what we have here is need, so number of students with need by family income cohort. You got the numbers on the left. And then on the right, you have the in-state undergraduate students applying for financial aid. This is across the state. We are basically succeeding tremendously at providing access to students. And as a result of that, it's causing us problems because we're not able to keep up with financial aid, particularly grant-based financial aid. That's what this and several other graphs that I'll show you are demonstrating. We're providing access, and by the way, we're also becoming more and more successful at graduating our students. So it's access and success that we're providing to our students. Yeah.
Go back to the previous slide. So is it correct, do I interpret this as our students come from, by far and away, families with much lower income?
Correct.
And a hugely larger number of our students need aid.
Correct. 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 And this shows you a different way of looking at that. So the last slide was family income. This is the Pell eligible students. And again, we have more, I mean, the graph on the left is pretty striking. We have more Pell eligible students than William and Mary, UVA, and Virginia Tech combined, despite the fact that Virginia Tech has more students than we do. That tells you how successful we are at providing access. And I'm not showing you all the figures, but we are increasingly successful at graduating these students as well, right? Okay, go back just a minute. Just if you missed it, the graph on the right is the number. So you can see the percentage and the number. Okay. We're showing you the story in a variety of different ways, but it's the same story. We're accepting, we're helping, we're educating, and we're graduating large numbers of low-income students. This slide is talking about institutional endowment aid, and again, we're a new institution. We are raising money. You want to say anything about this, Marty? We have a capital campaign, we're raising money, but it's going to take a while.
It is, and I think the presentation a little bit later will show some of that.
Okay. Okay. So it takes a while to generate the resources, the endowment, in order to endow those student scholarships that we're going to need. Okay, and then this is a discussion that we had in the Academic and Health Affairs Committee earlier. We will be focusing more on generating non-resident enrollment, particularly international students immediately with partnerships and so forth. It will probably take us longer to develop and attract more out-of-state students to help us here. On the other hand, we are educating a large number of in-state Virginia students and providing access to those students. So because of all the things we just showed you, so more students from lower income families, more Pell eligible students with less grant aid, more of our students have to take out loans, and that's the reason why our students are graduating with higher debt. Okay. And another way to look at it, but again, just looking at the family SES distribution, you can see that our students are just a different way of looking at what we've been saying in the other slides. Well, go back a minute. I don't know if everybody read all of that. So distribution of estimated family contribution, which of course is directly related to family income, Pell eligibility, and so forth. Okay, just a different way of looking at that. Okay. Now, although we have the highest debt at graduation, the one good thing is that that is leveling off for us. The change is smaller than the change in debt for the other institutions. So, and that we think, we believe is a reflection of many of the things that we've been doing recently to try to accelerate graduation, to improve retention, and to increase the amount of grant financial aid that we're providing to our students. And hopefully that will start not only plateauing, but it's the top line, it's the yellow line, it will start coming down. The one thing I might add here is, again, back to this investment kind of mentality. Although our mean debt for our students at graduation is a little over $28,000, for reference sake, the average new car loan in the U.S. is $29,551. So just for you to think about, people don't think about necessarily, you know, taking out a loan for a new car. Now, you do have to travel, you know, you may have to travel, although my 28-year-old son is still taking public transportation. That's a whole other story, but does not have a car. There's a big story behind that. You can imagine, but on the other hand, just a reference point, so. Again, debt's not a direct result of the cost of tuition. It's a function of the other factors: student, family, demographics, SES, and need-based aid. So, so what are we doing to deal with this? Expanding, I think everybody's heard the president talk about his commitment to expanding financial aid. And especially we've been talking lately to try to at first focus on, well, I'll wait to the next slide for that one. Expand financial aid, strengthen financial literacy, and we have been focusing for quite a while on speeding time to degree. This is where we are currently with institutional aid. On the left, you see the $30.7 million figure is where we will be this year if the budget's approved. includes additional monies for merit-based or need-based aid that we are adding. Blue is need-based aid. Red is merit-based aid, but much of our merit-based aid has a need-based component, and green is merit-based aid. On the right is what we're starting to focus on as an immediate step, which is to try to meet 100% of the need for, on the left of the right-hand chart in the red, all students whose families or whose students themselves fall below the federal poverty level, trying to meet 100% of their need with grant aid. And then in the blue bar, after we're able to do that, then trying to meet all students who are Pell eligible, trying to meet 100% of all their need. And then once we do that, then trying to meet 100% of the need for all other students. These are some of the kinds of things that we have in place for strengthening financial literacy. I'll just let you read that. There really are quite a lot of things that have been put in place. Many of them are quite impressive, and if anyone is interested in seeing any of these or wants any information about any of them, Luke Schulteis is available to give you that information. The time to degree, speeding time to degree, the Do the Math campaign, I think everybody's aware of that. That has clearly been helpful. We have been enhancing student advising, but we have a whole other series of initiatives to further enhance and improve student advising. And we have initiatives that we have planned for working with faculty to redesign gateway programs and expand our online course offerings. And then finally, one of the things that we know is an issue is gender differences in retention. In particular, although actually African Americans in general are doing better in terms of retention and graduation than the rest of our students, if you break that out by gender, African American males are lagging behind, as are Latinos. And so we are developing special programs to try to focus on those groups to increase their retention. And that's it.
Dr. Hackett, could you comment upon the hybrid education that we've heard about from time to time, where someone may go to like J-Sarge and then transfer over? That seems to be more prevalent and also can be another way to manage debt. Is that trending the way that, well, how are the trends going, first of all?
Yeah.
And then is that being adequately considered when you, where you think appropriate?
Well, it is a way to reduce costs, but and it certainly is advantageous for students who are not necessarily the kind of students that would best come directly into a four-year program. But anytime you put any kind of barrier in front of a student, including transfer, no matter how easy you make that transfer, you make it less likely that the student's going to end up graduating. And so it depends on the student. So if a student really is the kind of student that ought to go to a university, really, we ought to get them directly into the university, and we ought to get them the financial aid so that they can make it at the university. Having said that, though, we are looking at partnership programs with the community colleges and ways to enhance those programs, including dual admission, dual enrollment, and other kinds of programs where students in the community colleges now feel, and who are going to transfer, feel while they're at the community colleges that they're already part of VCU, so that we can ease that transfer.
Okay, thank you.
Gail. Just want to get the numbers, because there's this other group out there, this College Institute for College Success and Access. There's that other group out there, I think it's called the Institute for College Access and Success, that runs the project on student debt, and they were the ones kind of originally brought this up, and they do these state-by-state studies, and their numbers are far higher than the ones you presented for VCU. Their number isn't 28,000, it's over 32,400. And from what I've seen, that's usually the number that's often used sort of nationally. So if that number is incorrect, we should correct it with them. But if the number is correct, we're far below there. And I think this was reported like in October in a story, and that even Luke was quoted in.
Okay.
So I think we really need to at least get the numbers right
Okay.
in terms of where we are.
Kathleen, do you have?
The difference is that our debt number that we showed here of $20,000.
Yeah.
So this is the mean known debt of undergraduate in-state students. The $32,400 is that of all students and includes the debt of out-of-state students. And so it's the same source and the same number, but a different population. All of this comes from the State Council on Higher Education for Virginia. It maps this data for all of the public education institutions in the state, and it will disaggregate between in-state, out-of-state, and then total.
Right. I think we should at least get the full report when you present the data.
Marcia.
So when I look at these numbers, especially the mission that we serve as Virginia Commonwealth University in accepting students who demonstrate merit, who demonstrate the intellectual capability, the commitment, and the community service that we desire in our student body. And we admit these students without regard to their socioeconomic status. And when I look at the huge difference between our university and the other universities in Virginia, I don't know where these students would go if we did not run a very superb institution in terms of our financial stewardship. And if this place wasn't here, these students are not likely to be able to go out of state to medical school, or to university. They wouldn't have opportunity. And I think that we're a new university, so we don't have the endowment that the others have to dip into, to assist with financial aid. But we also carry a different mission here than the other universities. And we say we're top class in terms of the opportunities for research and real intellectual growth and opportunity for all students, regardless of how much money their families make. And then we have to run our shop with the best stewardship we can bring to that.
Thank you. Gail, thank you very much. Unless there are other questions or comments, does everyone have a copy of this material? Did we get the deck?
I don't think so, but
if we could do that, because I think there's valuable information there that not only people will want to reflect on, given the importance we're attaching to this broader challenge, but to foster continuing very good discussion as a board as we go forward. With that, is there any new business anyone would look to advance? Seeing none, why don't we adjourn for a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene thereafter. Let's say reconvene at 2:30, please. Thank you. Okay, we have officially reconvened, and our first act is to begin the process of moving into closed session. Ms. Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Rector. I move that we convene into closed session to discuss certain confidential personnel matters or the performance of specific individuals, the acquisition or use of real property for public purpose, or of the disposition of publicly held real property, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of VCU, to consult with legal counsel regarding legal matters, and/or to discuss confidential matters relating to gifts, bequests, and fundraising activities, including the report of the Vice President, the development report, the consideration of the named funds and spaces report, the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of VCU as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1, A3, A7, A8, A29 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We are now in closed session. Thank you very much.